Welcome to A Simple Take. My name's Sunny. Today we're going to go over a service called Apricot Finance. Before we get into that service, please make sure that if you enjoy this video that you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps to get these videos discovered. So before we get into the details of Apricot Finance, let's just talk about what it is. If you see me look to the side here, it's because I'm going to be reviewing some of my notes. What Apricot Finance is it is a collateralized lending protocol. What it does is it allows you to deposit your tokens onto the service and borrow against them tokens to either gain interest on the deposited amount and the borrowed amount, or to place your tokens into their X farm pools, and you'll get liquidity mining APY that way also. So let's head over to some data over here. So if we actually look at their website, you can see that they are backed by a lot of companies here. They've had, to the best of my knowledge, they've had 3 rounds of funding. The first round of funding was $800K in seed funding. Then they had $40K they won from a competition. Next, they just recently got $4 million in fundraising funds. So they do have a good amount of backing and some funds to help keep them going. They have done an audit. They used the service Hallborn here, and what they did was utilize their smart contract audits. What this does is what they do is they go and they look at their code to make sure there's no top level vulnerabilities, make sure the code is running smoothly. They also perform a manual and automated kind of check on their back end to make sure that everything, all the smart contract applications are running correctly. If we look at DeFi Llama here, we can see that they have a total locked value on average of about 219 currently. This is not the most accurate number because this information isn't updated to the minute, but it gives you a good idea of what their total locked value is over a time frame. And you could see that they pretty much have been a little over the $200 million mark for most of their time as they've been live. So let's go ahead and look a little bit on their tokenomics also. So they do have 2 types of tokens. The first one that they have currently available, they have is the APT, the Apricot token. They do have another token on the back end that I don't believe they've launched yet, or at least they haven't launched it to the public. That's the COT token. That's that token is a special token that they use to help offset some of the bad debt that they have. And what this token is kind of a debt management token. It allows people to kind of, I believe, buy this debt, and then they'll get this token as the exchange. I'm not 100% certain how it's going to work. They didn't put too much detail on that on the website, but I do know that they had talked about plans on having this COT token to help manage their bad debt. But the current the current token that they have is the APT token, their Apricot token. You can see how it's broken down. We just did the public sell, so 4% of that has already came off. We're currently earning part of the 40% in liquidity mining, and I would also assume that most likely the team has already been paid their 16%. I'm not sure if they've had the private sale yet, and I'm sure they've already divvied out the 10% for the reserve and treasury, and then they'll have the protocol and incentive programs the protocol incentive programs for the ecosystem later. We haven't heard really anything about their incentives outside of just liquidity mining as an incentive for depositing onto the service. They have a total cap of 1 billion tokens, but if we go over to Nomics over here and we scroll to the top, we can see we don't really know the known circulating supply. This is pretty common for just a governance token for a platform, but it can be worrisome if we see that the team has already had their 16% issued out to them, and we're still waiting for the rest of this to hit the market. So right now, you could see that it's very heavy. The amount of tokens is very heavily centralized in the actual ecosystem of the local team and that internal ecosystem, and it hasn't really been pushed out to the public yet, which is to be expected for something that just recently launched. So if we look at their actual market trend here, you could see this is when they've actually launched. They actually had a market high of, I believe, 37 was their all-time high on the 18th, which was shortly after their IDO launch. And they've been on a downward trend ever since. Now, it's not 100% the token that's making this go down. The market as a whole has also been going down, so it's just going down along with the market. But you would naturally expect that a governance token would also fall in value as people start mining and selling the token off or swapping it into other tokens. So we would naturally expect this to happen. As the service matures, we'll probably see an upward trend on this. We'll just have to see how it performs. Currently, you can get this token on Radium, Orca, and DexLab. There are a few other places you can get it too. I believe FTX might have it. I'm not 100% certain on that. But I do know there are other places you can get this token or swap for the token. And they do have the whole social profile. So they're on Twitter, Discord, Telegram, and they do have a Medium page. So they are very visible with what is happening with the project. So it's not a one-day operation here. They're really invested in keeping this thing going. And of course, it's on the Solana blockchain, if I didn't already mention that. If we go ahead and take a look at the actual website here, they do allow a whole bunch of wallets to connect to the service. I currently am using Phantom. You can see that I do actually use the website here. You can see that I've borrowed quite a substantial amount of money here. But I do have a pretty large amount of money, at least for me, deposited in there. What is really, if we go to the dashboard here, what's really nice about this website is that it is very clean. You're not really kind of searching for information. It's kind of right there in your face. Every single step of the way is pretty self-explanatory. You're not really guessing about what is happening in the background here. So if we actually look at the dashboard here, you can see we start at the top here with the Apricot bar. What this does is it shows you where you are in your borrowing structure. So you can borrow on the website. Well, currently my safe borrow limit, the limit in which I could borrow up to, is 90%. I am utilizing 81.83% of that 90% borrow limit. Once I hit 100%, my account gets liquidated. And that's what would happen for any lending service that would use collateral as the primary mechanism of loaning, of doing a flash loan. So I'm currently at 81.93% of that 90% borrow limit. And you could see that they very simply give you how much you're actual leveraged on your profile here. So I'm almost 2x leveraged. This is the net amount that I have deposited. This is the amount minus the deposit, minus the borrow amount. This is what I have here and my current APY that I'm earning. So this APY is based on your supply APY plus your farm APY minus the borrow APY. Now, currently my borrow APY is extremely high, and it's most likely because the market is just doing some weird stuff right now, especially with stablecoins. So yeah, I would not normally be this high. I'd normally probably be about like 55%. You can see I'm currently not in any farming positions. I am receiving some deposit APY in Solana, MSOL Solana, and Radium. And you could see this is my interest returned. This is the dollar amount for the interest returned. The actual tokens that I've gained in like kind interest, and then the APY is for that. And then this is the dollar amount. And then this is my borrowed position. And you could see that I am borrowing USDT is currently at an insane borrow APY right now. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's happening here. You can, if you toggle this right here, you could see full details about a little bit more about what's happening with your account here. I tend to, for at least the dashboard page, I don't really need all that additional information here. If we move down to the lend area, I really like this little panel here. It kind of tells me exactly where I am on my account. I can kind of just go right into this lend area and see what I have deposited, what I'm borrowed against, and everything that's important to me. Again, we have this little toggle here that tells me if I want to really know the actual exact amount of tokens instead of the dollar amount, or I could just switch to the dollar amount there. I actually tend to spend most of my time in the lend page over the dashboard page because of how good this little panel here is. If they would have integrated that into this page here, that would be amazing. Then if we move a little bit further down the page, we can see we have our staked APY panel here. If you had bought some APY or if you're currently earning APY, you can come and then also deposit it into the service and gain some additional yield on that APY here. You cannot currently borrow against the APT that you have deposited into the service at the moment. They have talked about maybe in the future allowing you to borrow against this APT as the token matures a little bit more. But currently, you could just earn yield on your deposit of that. If we go a little bit further down, these are the tokens in which you can borrow that you can deposit into the service. You're going to have your big names like Solana, MSOL, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Then we have most of these lending services allow you to deposit Radium. Then we have Orca, CERM. They just added recently. And then both the two stable coins you would expect to have here, USDT and USDC. And then we have Terra. Through a wormhole, I believe is how they're utilizing this service here. Oh, my camera went out here. Let me go ahead and just fix this real quick. And then we also have the USDT, USDC pairing, which you can deposit and earn additional yield here. But you cannot borrow against that. And if you wanted to get this pairing to deposit in here, you can get that through Saber. You'll go on Saber, create the LP, and then bring the LP over here to deposit and get some additional yield so that you can, we can't borrow against that, but you can earn some APY on that. So if we look at our deposit APY here, you could see that it's showing that I can earn 8.13% APY on Solana And the way it's broken down is that I would earn 5.1 APY on like kind coins. So this would be 5.1 of Solana APY, and then the additional 3.02 would be as the APT that I would get on a weekly basis. So the way the rewards work, if we can hop over to rewards over here, is that every Monday they release your accumulated, they call it vested APT. You can claim that. What you can do is you could take that off the platform. You can convert that into any token that you'd like, or you can again go into your lend here and then deposit it onto the platform and earn additional APY. You can also earn, if you deposit MSOL, which I am, this additional token as a reward for staking or for using MSOL as a reward for using that service. So what I don't like about this is that they do combine it, and the way that it looks on the platform like you're earning 8.13% Solana plus an Apricot tokens, but you're really just earning 8.13% combined APY. So they really shouldn't have this plus and then the Apricot sign here, because it's kind of confusing for people who aren't aware of the how the actual APY is breaking down. And then MSOL is you'd actually get 3 rewards tokens for depositing into that. And then borrowing is a similar process. You'd see what this is your interest that you'd have to pay over the course of that year. This fluctuates obviously with the market. And that the way that they get to this 9.59% is they take the borrow APY, which is currently at 12.65%, and then they would subtract the rewards that you get, which would be the APT. You get 3.06% as reward for borrowing the money. They subtract that from that 12.65 and you come up with the 9.59. So you are earning rewards on both depositing and borrowing the tokens. So the best way to utilize the service if you're very new to it and you want to have very low risk is you would borrow a stable coin, USDT or USDC. And then you could obviously borrow a certain amount, deposit that amount in back into that. So you're making money from the borrow and then you're depositing that back in and you're making money on that deposit. Of course, you would have to have some additional, some initial collateral on your account to initialize the first borrow. But you can get some fantastic APY on just stable coins by borrowing and then depositing that stable coin into the account. And since stable coins are pegged to the dollar, you don't necessarily have to risk too much of your account getting to a liquidation amount, which would be 100% of your borrowed amount. So let's move down to X Farms. This is what they're really known for. What's interesting about Apricot's X Farms is that you only need you don't need any of the tokens for the pairings to create a farm, because the way they do it is they utilize your deposit amounts on your account to borrow against. So let's actually look at USDC, USDT. You can see that I actually don't have any of them coins in my account. Currently, I can borrow $61,000 if I wanted to. That would put me to the 90% borrow limit. So they're letting me borrow up to the 90% there. And that would put my portfolio at 2.56 leveraged. And if I were to borrow that amount, I get a final APY that's minus the interest, plus the rewards, plus the LP farming rewards of 9.18%. And so if you look over here, like I said, you see, on my account, I actually did not have any USDC. I did not have any USDT deposited. So what they're doing is they're taking my deposit balance here, and instead of having to rely on the actual having that token in your deposit, they're taking that value and they're saying, hey, we know you have this value, so they're gonna lend me the USDT and lend me the USDC, right? And then we're gonna create the token. So you only need to have something deposited into your accounts, any token that you have available, and then you can borrow against that token, and you don't necessarily need to have the token that's associated with the two pairs. So that's something that's very unique to Apricot. Normally, what you would have to have is, if you wanted to create a USDC USDT pair, you would have to have 50% available USDC and 50% available USDT to create that pair, and then you'd have the LP token from that. And of course, you can get a leveraged amount by borrowing additional over what you actually have. But let's just say you didn't want to go leveraged on your account because you wanted to play safe. So we could see that I have MSOL and SOL here. So we're going to go into the MSOL and SOL farm. And I can actually, if I don't want to borrow anything, you don't have to borrow anything. They'll take exactly what you have deposited into your account, and they can create a pair from that. Now, of course, if you don't have any of the tokens from that pair, if you don't have both pairs, you will have to borrow one or the other or both if you want to create this pair. If you don't happen to have both of them pairs, both of the tokens from the pairs in your deposit account, but I do. So I'm just creating a normal token, which I'm going to earn a yield on that. And I'm not going to increase the leverage on my account by really anything because I'm not borrowing anything. So you can just do a normal farm if that's what you want to do. But it's always a good idea that if you can, if it's a down market, it's a really good time, especially right now, to go ahead and get some of that additional APY by borrowing against and using your tokens as collateral. Just a note that when you borrow money, you are at risk of losing that money if the market goes down. So just be very careful about how you leverage your account. Me personally, whenever I borrow money, I try not to borrow past 75% of my borrowing power. That's what this is here, my borrowing limit. Just in case we have times like we have now where the market goes down, and then I have a nice little cushion that I can borrow, that my account can my account borrow limit can raise up into. So you never know when we have these small dips, and you don't want to accidentally put yourself in a position where you have to sell off part of your assets. Speaking of selling off part of your assets, let's go over to the assist function. This is something that is exclusive to Apricot. I haven't seen this anywhere. So what this does is it will help protect your account from total liquidation. And the way they do that is that you set a trigger limit. So a trigger limit is the maximum you want your account to get to before a certain sell sequence will happen automatically. And what will happen with that sell sequence is it will automatically sell funds to get you back down to a borrow limit of whatever you want. So currently I have my trigger limit set to 96. So when my borrow limit here gets to 96%, it will automatically trigger this sequence of a selling events. So it's going to start selling MSOL, then it will sell Ray, then it will sell SOL, all the way until it gets down to a borrow limit of 94%. And what this does, like I said, it helps protect your account from being totally liquidated. Because when you get to 100%, you have to repay your debt completely. because they don't want to accrue the financial risk of you not being able to repay that debt. So they liquidate the collateral that you put up there to repay the loan. But what this does is it allows you to repay just part of the loan, get you into a borrow limit position where you're not losing your entirety of your account, just a small portion of your account to repay just that little tiny bit, so that you can keep most of your account at a nice healthy level. I personally have never been triggered any of these events. I play it safe. Like I said, I don't borrow. I borrow up until 75% on my borrow limit. You want to borrow on down markets. That way you have a nice little cushion that when the market go up, your borrow limit starts to go back down. And they also have this assist simulator. And what this does is it will give you a rough estimate about how much the overall market needs to change for your trigger event to happen. So currently the market needs to go down another 15%, and then that will trigger my sell event, and it will cause me to go and sell off these assets so they can get back to the 94%. So very cool feature. I have, luckily, fingers crossed, I have not had to use the service, but it is always nice to know that you have it on the back end, just in case you fall asleep and then you wake up and the markets have just crashed through the ground and you didn't lose everything. So, and then again, we'll just go over the rewards here. So like I said, every Monday you are able to claim your APT that you've gotten for depositing, borrowing, or using the farms. I have some retro APT just because I used the service while it was being tested. And so they're giving me a little bit of rewards before they gave out APT, as a retroactive type thing. And then I'm also earning some rewards off my MSOL. So the service is pretty good. You can see that I'm not just talking about it because it's cool, but I'm actually using it because it is powerful. And you can see that I'm earning some pretty good rewards here. I've been using it for a few weeks now. And if you do want to get a little bit more information about the service or get in contact with the community, they do have social outlets here. You could see that we have Twitter, Medium, Discord, and Telegram. If you go to Twitter, they are tweeting almost every day, I believe. And their Medium website is where you would find more long form updates about what's happening with the platform. And then of course you can go to Discord to interact with the community and Telegram to interact with the community even further. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this little overview of Apricot. If you think that you enjoyed this and you want to see me talk about other Solana ecosystem plays, leave a comment below. If I see something interesting, I may start using the service and then write a review about how that service is used. If you want me to talk about anything else, leave a comment below, and maybe I'll make a short little video about whatever topic that is. You can also follow me on Twitter. I am at A Simple Take. Keep in mind on that Twitter account, I delete all my tweets in one day. So if I say something and you don't check my Twitter account that day, you are going to miss out on the information. So I do post times when I buy or sell something. I'll post it on my Twitter account. Obviously, we'll have updates about these videos on that, and then any other interesting stuff I think people should know about, you'll find there too. But you have to be subscribed and you have to be watching to get the most information off of that account. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.